Good afternoon, everyone. David Johnson here, Leo Crowdfunding, and hosting today this project webinar on behalf of Central Point at Bastion in Liverpool. So we are recording this broadcast, and I'll explain why in a second. But first of all, let me say a quick hello to Mitchell Walsh and David Mason. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, David.
Okay, and for those who are attending the broadcast today, and it's great to see the numbers just clicking up along the bottom, you're probably wondering, well, who am I and why am I on this call? Because you'd be very, very familiar with Mitchell Walsh as the owner and founder of INTERGITAS Property Group and, of course, the Elevate Group. But the reason I'm hosting this broadcast is because of compliance. We are an equity property crowdfunding platform. And you can see along the bottom of the screen now, and I'll just confirm, Mitchell, you're seeing the risk warning slide now, yeah?
I am, yes.
Excellent, thank you. So along the bottom there, you'll see that Leo Crowdfunding is an appointed representative of Share Unlimited, which is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. And it's just important to note that what you're being showing on this presentation is a financial promotion. It's an investment pitch. And therefore, it's up to you to do your due diligence, look at the information, make a decision for yourself. And it's also important to note that there is risk with this investment, and therefore you need to do your due diligence before making a decision to invest. But it is important to note the information that has been shared. INTERGITAS have had to submit that information to us and our FCA principal to review it, and only then are we able now to share it with you as a financial promotion. So that explains why I'm on the call hosting this. And now let's get into the main presentation. So what we're talking about today is an investment opportunity into a project by the INTERGITAS Property Group. It's a Central Point Bastion in Liverpool. It's planned to deliver 69 residential apartments over 7 floors, quite near the Liverpool city centre. We'll begin into that in a bit more detail. Along the bottom there, the maximum raise amount looking to raise is £750,000 of equity into this project. Minimum investment amount, £500. The projected return on investment is 19% per annum, and it's estimated to be a 24-month project. So that is the overview. That is the, if you like, the executive summary. So let me hand over, first of all, to Mitchell, basically a bit more about who you are, your background, and your passion and vision with INTERGITAS.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you very much for having us join you today. So yeah, my name is Mitchell Walsh. I've worked in the off-plan property sector for just over 12 years now. I cut my teeth, if you like, working for a company called Select Property Group. Out in Dubai, lived in Dubai for just under 3 years. And I suppose where it all started for me as a developer, I also own a real estate agency, as you mentioned earlier on, called Elevate Limited. I purchased my first building, which was a development called the Wishing Well in Bootle in Liverpool. And we actually exchanged contracts on that 3 days before we went into lockdown. So as you can imagine, it was very much a baptism of fire into the development world for me. So that was a development made up of 42 2-bedroom apartments. Although it was an existing building, we did pretty much have to rip the entirety of the building out. You know, we purchased the building and very quickly realized they had no fire stopping, a number of issues that basically made it unlivable. And luckily, with a lot of effort and a lot of management, we were able to come in under budget by over £100,000 on our build, and we delivered the scheme 8 weeks early. That's a development that I'm very proud of to this day. You know, we finished the development over 2 years ago. And we've had investors come back, resell the apartment through us that have resold for, a much higher price than originally invested. But I think through that what ultimately wasn't what made me commit to to being a property developer. The thing that made me commit was obviously because we were a real estate agency that sold developments for other developers. We had 2 developments that actually weren't delivered because the developer hadn't acted in the proper way. I think the breaking point for us was a scheme called the Lyceum. Anyone that does a little bit of research into me and my company will see that that's a development that we actually bought out of administration. Now, my investors had actually handed over a significant amount of money, in excess of £2 million, to the developer. And it turns out the developer hadn't even paid for the land that the development was built on. Now, I'm not somebody that was born into money. I've come from a world of poverty, and in fact, you know, from a council estate in Liverpool. So I know the value of a pound note, should we say. And it just absolutely made me sick to know that there was people out there in the world that were happy for investors to lose money and not act in the proper way. And I think that from that day, I said, Elevate will not sell property for anybody else that I don't personally know, or sell property for anybody else but myself, because, you know, ultimately I know what I can do. I know what we will do. After buying the Lyceum back, you know, that development's now been under construction for the past 7 months, being overseen by Dave, who's obviously on the call with me today. And we're drawing down from our funders next month. So, you know, it's a fantastic, you know, story of success. Every single investor that was originally bought will have all of the money returned, and actually they were all shared in the profits as well. So yeah, it's a real success story, and that was sort of my entry into the development. We're now on our 5th development, you know, further down the line. We have, you know, over, I think, £70 million worth of construction underway at the moment. So yeah, it's a fantastic time for us.
Excellent. Okay, no, thank you. That's a really good introduction. You mentioned David there being your man that sort of delivers the projects. So David, great to have you on today. Do you want to give a quick bit about your background and your role within INTERGITAS?
Sure. Yeah. Well, a little bit about my background, David. I've got over 30 years of construction experience under my belt. Over 20 of those have been in senior management positions for some large companies, organisations you may well know, the likes of ISG, Morgan Sindall, Keepmoat, to name but a few, Waits Group as well. So I have a vast experience in various projects, ranging from the new terminal at Liverpool Airport to major housing and apartment schemes, listed buildings, and various conservation projects. So I've come across most of the problems that you're going to come across in this life that we've chosen. I've always had an emphasis on quality and safety. They're the priority. And I'd like to think that over my career, that's something that has come through on all the projects that have been delivered. And obviously with INTERGITAS, that's a massive part of their ethos. I was brought in by Mitchell to develop the construction team. We realised there was a massive gap in the market where construction costs were soaring out of all proportion due to the COVID epidemic. Then we had Brexit, then we had the war in Ukraine, and all these issues have had a massive impact on construction costs. So my remit was to develop a team who could control costs and deliver schemes that we had full control over. And it's working really well. The team in-house now, which I will go on to in later slides, and how we deliver these projects on budget. The team are in-house, they're working away, really capable. Every one of the team are absolutely top of the game. And it makes us quite unique. When our competitors are shelving projects around the region, we're actually thriving and pushing on. So Mitch is the brains behind the organisation and the finance, and I just kind of pick up the pieces and turn things three-dimensional.
I thought you were going to say Mitchell's the brains and you're the good looks of the organisation. No?
You'll be far wrong.
No, absolutely fantastic. David, thank you for that introduction. And before we move on to the team, which you mentioned there, for the attendees that are on this project webinar, one of the real benefits of this is you get a chance to ask questions direct from Mitchell and David. They both obviously made some time in their diary today, both very busy men, as you can imagine, running that amount of projects. But you have them live on this project webinar. It is recorded. There will be a recording, but we're live now. So if you have any questions, about their backgrounds, about this project, David mentioned there about risk mitigation, given some of the factors that the construction industry is having at the minute. So if you want to know how they're doing that, ask the question in the Q&A box. So along the bottom, don't use the chat box, please. Use the Q&A, and that way it can be recorded, and then we can even take the questions and the answers and send it out to all the attendees that are on this broadcast. So please take the opportunity to ask any question into the Q&A box. So David, you mentioned there about the team. So do you want to even just briefly, maybe a sentence or two on each of these key people?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll go through the list chronologically. Obviously, Adam is sales director for INTERGITAS. I think he's got a long relationship with Mitchell over in Dubai and over in the UK as well. So it's not somebody who's unknown to the organization. He's tasked with going out to market to agents to work alongside Elevase to promote sales in and around, well, multinationally, to be honest with you. So his links are absolutely paramount to the sales side of it. Then you've got Rue Nathu, who's the investment director. Rue's a merchant banker with vast experience in raising finances and gaining wealth, and obviously investing in future schemes. He's got a wealth of knowledge over many years and is based in the southeast, so we've got many strong links down there. Then we move on to Ben, who's the senior quantity surveyor. Ben was the first person enrolled into the team. He's got a wealth of experience as a senior quantity surveyor. He benefits from over 15 years, as it quite says there, and he comes from a trade background, so he knows the nuts and bolts of the industry. He's worked at many large organizations and very similar schemes, high rise for local developers in the Liverpool area. So he's really got his finger on the pulse on the local economy. And then we've got Mark McCrudden, who's our buyer, very experienced buyer. Not slightly as experienced as me, unfortunately, but experienced nonetheless. He's built his reputation on connections within the industry and is making significant savings, not only on the procurement of materials, but on obtaining long-term relationships and prices being held at current rates, which is in this volatile market is absolutely it's what we need. We need to have a good hold on the construction costs, and Mark and Ben are key to that.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Mitchell, if you met someone in an elevator and you get up 5 or 6 floors and you need to give them a quick overview on this project, how would you describe this exciting project you're bringing to the investment crowd?
Yeah, so I mean, Central Point at Bastion is part of a larger 240 apartment scheme. Central Point being in the name, being the central tower, which is made up of 16 residential luxury apartments just outside of the Liverpool city centre. So it is a city centre development. It is in the L3 postcode, within walking distance of the business district, Moorfield Station, Lime Street Station. So location wise, it's absolutely a gateway development, and is ultimately going to be situated to home a number of mature students, being located very close to Liverpool University, which is one of the #1 medical hospitals in the universities in the world. As well as working professionals who are travelling in and out of the city centre, but not quite straight in the middle, in the midst of the hustle and bustle. Luxury development, fantastically located, screams quality, and that's pretty much it.
Cool. And the GDV then about 7.7 for this part of it.
Correct, yeah. So Central Point has a GDV of 7.74 million, with the agreed construction schedule aiming for Q4 2024. So we are actually ahead of schedule on the build, which Dave can obviously talk through you a little bit more, but it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, ultimately, a number of developers, and again, we're talking about previous developers that we've worked in, you know, you'll get towards the construction completion date and there's been a spade in the ground. You know, before we'd actually sold any of these apartments, we were already on site. Had concrete laid on site a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, with the frost over the past couple of weeks, that's you know, delayed sort of expanding the footings. But again, Dave can talk you through that. But yeah, it's one of my phrases that I like to use. A busy site is a happy site, and that's always what you'll see with us.
I like that one. Busy site, a happy site. I definitely like that now. So one thing, Mitchell, is we have talked and have been engaged with your team for the last number of months as we put this together, and following you on social media and seeing the different articles on you. You're obviously passionate about Liverpool. It's obviously your home city. That comes across in everything you do and every time you talk about your project. So do you want to just speak to that a bit, and then why, from an investment side, you feel Liverpool is a good destination for investor money?
Absolutely, and you know, it's probably clear by the accent that I'm a Liverpool born and bred lad. You know, I touched on it earlier. I was born into poverty. I've seen poverty around me coming from a council estate called Norris Green in Liverpool. You know, I've sort of had a passion for property from a very young age, and for me, Liverpool is somewhere that I'm extremely proud to be from. You know, I'm very proud to say I give a significant amount back to the community. You know, I donate a significant amount of my income to charity every single year. I was talking to you earlier on about we actually paid and funded the largest free grotto ever to come to Liverpool over the weekend, with over 500 kids in attendance. You know, we fed 500. We had packed lunches for everyone. We had presents labelled with individual names for pre-registered kids. We also brought additional gifts for people that turned up on the day. Everyone got to meet Father Christmas. There was a free pantomime, candy floss machine, popcorn, and like I say, packed lunches. So, you know, I'm very proud of where I'm from. I'm very proud of my background. But what comes along with that is giving back to the community, and you know, I'm a strong believer in that. You know, if you do well by other people, good things will come your way. I think you can probably tell by the way I speak of how proud I am of my city. Liverpool's a fantastic place. Not only are the people amazing in Liverpool, but from an investment perspective, it's absolutely fantastic. You know, you look at areas like London, Manchester, which quite saturated, in all honesty. You'd be lucky if you get a return of 3% in them locations now. And I think Liverpool's absolutely fantastic. You know, it's not quite at the earliest stages of redevelopment where there's a lot of risk. You know, there's so much redevelopment going on. You've got the £5.5 billion Liverpool Waters development. You've got a 14.8 predicted rental market growth over the next 4 years. You know, over 500,000 of the current population size, Liverpool metropolitan area. You've got a 16.7% growth on the local housing prices since March 2020. So there's a significant amount of growth, and you know what goes with that is, you know, you've got the Everton football stadium, which, although I am an absolute staunch red, is absolutely amazing for the city. You know, it's a multi-million-pound project within walking distance, actually stone's throw distance from Central Point. You've got Anfield, which is my club, which is a little bit further up from this development, but it's an absolutely amazing city. Like I say, you know, occupancy rates are some of the highest in the UK when it comes to the rental market, and it just makes it all around a fantastic investment opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And you've said some of the things you were mentioning there. There's just a bit of a diagram there on the screen now, just in terms of you know, transport links. Or again, it's a great city for transport links. And again, just some of the main places of interest. You alluded to some of those, but certainly it's a cultural city with so much happening, you know, in terms of the infrastructure redevelopment. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, I mentioned being walking distance from the two major train stations, one being Moorfields, one being Liverpool Lime Street, which is a national train station. You've also got the Eurovision here this year, which is, again, it's fantastic. You know, a lot of people may enjoy the singing that's put on show, but it's an absolutely fantastic event and brings a lot of attention to the city, a lot of income and revenue for the city as well. You know, there's so much happening. You don't quite have time to fit it all in, but you know, I think, as I mentioned, I'm extremely passionate about the city, and all these reasons are the reason why.
Excellent. Okay, no, thanks very much indeed. And again, that's just a location which you've alluded to there, just in terms of right on the edge of the major redevelopment, which is great in terms of location of this project. So David, if I pivot over to you now, you were mentioning there about your own construction background, but also the fact that INTERGITAS Property Group, you have got this development stroke construction sort of engine in place, and you've already working on multiple other sites currently. So I mean, you want to speak to that, and then we've got some images of this particular project, site layouts, etc.
Yeah, by all means, David. Yeah, so basically, I tapped onto before, in coming into the business, it was quite clear that going out to the market for competitive tenders simply wasn't working. Everybody was putting contingencies in for every mortal thing, and costs were just spiraling out of control. So we quite quickly realized that in order to progress on these projects, we'd have to take a slightly different approach. And in this, with the team that I explained before, we looked to engage with a contractor who we could work alongside in a joint venture approach, as opposed to traditional tendering. And this, by building up the trust and working alongside with our expert team, it meant that we could keep a cost analysis, we can keep a control on all the costs, and in fact lend our years of experience to our chosen contractor to deliver the schemes.
Mm-hmm.
How we went about this was that we let the contractor tender on a traditional basis. We went through their return with a fine-tooth comb, and the team analysed where the big ticket items were, and items that were kind of cost prohibitive, let's say. So we sat down and alongside the contractor to evaluate and to look at areas of concern and where we could trim things back. So with the help of Ben and Mark, we sat down to look through every aspect of the project, and we then agreed on a figure which got us to site. We ring-fenced the contractor's overhead and profit, so there was no risk there. And from signing the contract, we then worked on negotiating deals nationally to keep that cost below the protracted figure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this gives us kind of what we call a contingency pot, which gives us security to know that any unforeseeable costs that do arise on projects, we're all realists. We know that things happen. We have severe weather conditions, you name it. We have a pot there that can cover any of these unforeseeables and gives us complete control over the costs of the scheme.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
With regards, go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Just say, well, a couple of quick slides now, just on the sort of artist impression CAD imagery, so that this is the potential finished article of the project.
Yeah, this is one of the 2-bedroom apartments. They come with full furniture packs to a very high standard. We have an FF&E company who are working alongside us. They work alongside the design as well, which means that 3-seater sofas do fit in to where they're shown on the architect's drawings. And we do have a wall for an entertainment system and TV. Whereas some of the, designs you work with over the years, architects don't really see the finished project when it comes to the placing of furniture and the layouts to make it a livable space. So yeah, that's the standard we will achieve.
Okay, and there's one of the sort of site plans.
Yeah, we've got a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroomed apartments, David, and there are 3 commercial units, as you can see. They're on a split level. The commercial units, it's quite interesting. There's some quite stringent planning restrictions on those. So, it's not going to turn into a nightclub over the next couple of years. I think they can only trade till 10 p.m. at night. So we are looking to kind of evoke interest from people, like craft food outlets, coffee shops, that kind of thing. It doesn't lend itself to bars and nightclubs because the planning laws are too restrictive. So for any prospective investors, they can, they know that there's going to be no noise after 10 p.m. There's very tight restrictions on kind of refuse and the storage of. So yeah, we're looking, as I say, to look at it. The area is well known for crafts and artisans, and that's what we're trying to approach for the commercial units.
Okay. And there's just another sort of sample of one of the floor plates.
Yeah, again, you'll see there are a mixture of 1 and 2 bedrooms, all fitted out to a great spec. They're all to modern living standards, so there's no restrictions on the size. In fact, we achieve slightly better than modern living standards. So everything's a positive for residents.
Yeah. But okay, so thank you for that, Dave. And again, more information will be in the equity offer document that people can look at and see more of this type of information if they want to see that. So let's just pivot then, just as we come sort of to the end, and then leave it open for questions and answers. Let me again remind everybody, if you have any questions at all for Mitchell and for David, stick it into the Q&A box. And then we've got a Q&A session just whenever we finish the main presentation here in a few minutes, and then we'll happily answer and deal with those questions. So Mitchell, in terms then of the high level financials, and again, these will be in detail in the equity offer document, but just in terms of high level, on the screen there is what you call the summary of the financials. You want to just run through the main important figures there, please?
Yeah, of course. So I think obviously the main point is the GDV, which for everyone that doesn't understand what that is, it's the gross development value. So that's the value of the total sales of all of the apartments within the development, just under 7.8 million. So the scheme in this particular plot of the scheme was purchased for £470,000, stamp duty £90,000, hard build cost at 4.7. We're actually coming in slightly under that at the moment, thanks to Dave and his team. Contingency 235,000. Obviously, we've managed to get that quite low because we have such a strong hand again on the build input. Sales costs £716,000. Finance costs £376,000. So the total projected development costs are 6.8317. So with an approximate net profit looking at 13.33%, percentage on the GDV is 11.77%. So the numbers are right exactly where we need them to be in relation to a development. But it also allows us to ensure that we don't skimp when it comes to quality.
Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I enjoy working with organizations like INTERGITAS is that it's not one person sitting down doing a spreadsheet. It's a team of people, a team of professionals who are looking at all different aspects of this from their different perspectives, and collectively that experience and intelligence and knowledge and skills all come together to produce the financials.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I say, we've got many moving cogs behind the scenes here. My role is obviously to lead the company and ensure that we do things the correct way. while doing things like this, you know, looking when it comes to funders, ensuring that we get the right plots. We have a number of brokers that work for us, and, you know, we're in a very unique situation where we actually have people come to us and offering us sites because of the reputation that we hold within the market. You know, behind the scenes, we've got we've got our sales director, Adam Ross, that's going out dealing with the agencies like Elevate, for example. We've got we've got Dave, Ben, and the rest of the team ensuring that the builds run smoothly. We've got Emma in our operations department that's making sure everything on the back end runs smoothly. So there's a number of moving cogs, and, you know, I think I'm very lucky, not quite lucky, to have such a fantastic team behind me.
Excellent. Okay, no, thank you for that. That's good to know. Regarding then the project financials from an investor point of view, and I'll just speak to this initially. So what has been offered here by Mitchell and his team is an opportunity to make an equity investment into this project. So this is not debt. There's no security or personal guarantees or debentures over the company or charges over the property. This is not debt. This is equity. So the equity investors are buying shares in the SPV. So you actually become a part owner of the SPV, the special purpose vehicle that owns the asset, and it's clear to get that distinction. So I sometimes liken it that while there's no charge over the property, you actually own part of the property. That's the security. You actually own a share equal to your investment in the project. So in terms of a crowdfunding raise, just if there are those on the webinar here, maybe perhaps not familiar with the crowdfunding structure, this is a crowdfunding raise. Mitchell and the team are looking to raise 750,000 equity into the project. That's obviously to sit above the senior debt requirement on the capital stack. You can see there they're offering a projected 19% per annum return on that investment, and estimated to be a 2-year project. May run over, circumstances beyond control, etc. And if it does run over into the 3rd year, they're actually willing to increase the return on investment, which I think is a very fair proposition for the fundraiser to make. So you can see there, if the crowd's investing 750,000, the projected return, that's 142,500 is a projected ROI. And what we do is we take that 142,500 and express that as a percentage of the net profit. So you can see at the bottom there, the net profit was, I think from memory, 900,000. Therefore, the investor return as a percentage of the forecasted profit is 15.15%. So that's the part of the project that's owned by the crowd equity investors at 15%. So the SPV has issued 1,500 shares, and the investor price per share is £500. So the minimum investment that anyone can make into this project is £500. So that's kind of the overview of the crowd financials. You invest your money into equity. The projected return 19% per annum on what's estimated to be a 2-year project, and effectively the crowd investors collectively will own 15.15% of the SPV. Along the bottom again, just drawing your attention to it. Obviously, don't invest unless you're prepared to lose all the money you invest. This is a high risk investment, and you know, it's certainly I would recommend you go and look at the risk warnings and have a look at that, just to make sure you understand the nature of this type of investment. So Mitchell, in terms of exit, I know you've already sold the majority of the units. You want to maybe just explain how you've structured that, and then what from the investor point of view is their exit to this project?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously this is an off-plan property development, obviously made up of a number of different departments. So as mentioned earlier, I do also own a sales company called Elevate Limited, which specialise in servicing overseas and UK investors. So this has very much taken the structure of a fractional sales model, with over 90% of the apartments sold to date, with an exchange deposit of 30% with the balance on completion. So the most important thing for me is security to my investors. You know, we've put over £2 million of our own cash into this development to date to ensure that the loan to value does not exceed a high amount. But yeah, so it's very much a fractional sales model. And we're very lucky that we are over 90% sold out on this development to date.
Okay, and those current purchasers, they have those have exchanged, have put a 30% deposit down, which of course is ring fenced, until the sale's complete, and then obviously the rest on completion. So I think from a risk mitigation point of view, Mitchell, that's really interesting, because a lot of crowdfunding opportunities that are on our platform and other platforms, there's a lot of risk with the exit, whereas in your situation, you've actually got paperwork that you've got buyers in place, and I think that mitigates that exit risk substantially.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, ultimately, the exit is the biggest concern for most when it comes to funders, as well as obviously fractional investors. Obviously, because we have such a solid and sterling reputation in the market, because we've delivered everything that we've said. We absolutely pride ourselves on that, and I think it absolutely shows the fact that we have been able to pre-sell the majority of these apartments before we've taken significant build milestones, and that's allowed us to move quickly and build ahead of schedule, and ultimately provide security for our investors.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So just touching on the risk factors, and maybe David, you want to comment on these? I'll just sort of summarize when you come in behind me. So although it's development, obviously you've got your planning in place. There are some conditions need to be executed. Obviously you've got your planning contributions, and then from a contingency point of view, you've already mentioned that. So risk is something that you try and mitigate the best you can, David, and it's no different with this project.
Absolutely. Through experience, we've realised that risks are there to be controlled, and I think we have a very good mechanism and a great team to control those risks. With regards to the planning conditions, there is only one, as you quite rightly put in the slide there, the archaeological report, which has been carried out. We've received the report. It's now in with the council just to sign off. But basically everything, all the pre-commencement conditions have been satisfied. The Section 106 is now in place, as you say, and the contingency, we not only have a 5% contingency written into the contract figure, but we also have this contingency pot that is growing as we get buying gains, as packages are let and works progress.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. So moving now to Q&A just in a second, but I think it is important, Mitchell, you've mentioned a number of times Elevase as your sort of real estate arm, distribution arm, and then obviously INTERGITAS, you're the owner of both companies. So I suppose just to be really clear for any of the potential investors on the call, that would fall under what we call the conflict of interest section of a document, which people can go and read. But maybe just in a sentence, just explain that they're two different companies, but obviously you own both of them.
Of course, yeah. So the Elevase and INTERGITAS, as I mentioned, Elevase, I ultimately started off as a sales agent selling property for other developers after having a bumpy ride and noticing that other developers don't act in the same integral way that I do, and priding themselves on the same morals that I do. I ultimately formed INTERGITAS, with Elevase being the master sales agent, in order to protect all Elevase investors. We don't allow them to sell any other stock other than IPG stock and occasionally stock that we personally know. But sort of 95% of all stock sold by Elevase is INTERGITAS stock. Again, does have a shared owner, but it gives us a level of control to ensure that all our investors are safe.
Brilliant, thank you. And again, that's covered in more details in the equity offer document. So next stage Q&A after this, but just to confirm for those who are on the project, before we finish here, we'll put the link to the pitch pages. You've already probably got it in the emails from Elevase. You can go to It's the Leo crowdfunding platform, but it's the landing pages for INTERGITAS and this project central point. There'll be an overview section, financial section, team section. There's also an online forum where you can post questions, and Mitchell and Dave and the team will answer those questions. But what you can do is you can actually register your interest for this project. And this is very important because it means that the team will know to stay in touch with you and let you know the next steps in the project. So you leave an email address, an investment amount. I stress this is not you making an investment. This is simply making a soft pledge or an indication of what you may be interested in investing after you've completed your due diligence. But it does mean that you've registered your interest, and therefore Mitchell and his team are aware of your interest, and we can stay in touch with you on that basis. On the right there is the equity offer document, which once you've registered on the site, you'll be able to download, and that will probably answer 99% of the questions you have about this project. It's a really good document put together, lots of detail, lots of annexes that you can go through, and that's the document you need to read prior to making a decision of whether to invest or not. So I'll just jump to some Q&A in the time that we have left. Again, this is a live recording, so we don't read out people's names just to respect any anonymity that is required. Someone's asked here, can you supply a postcode to identify the location? So I don't know whether you want to do that.
Of course. It's L360R, and it's located on Naylor Street in Liverpool, L3 area.
Okay, so for that, you might want to, Mitchell or David, even just fire that into the chat box if you're familiar with that. You can just drop it in there, and then
I'll do that
everyone
now.
gets it. And if Michael happens to be on the call and he wants to drop Mitchell or David the link to the landing pages, the pitch pages, then they could also drop that into the chat box if you do that as well. Another question here: I own rental property near the university and students are good tenants for me. Is this near any of the Liverpool universities?
It is, yes. It's actually within walking distance of the 3 universities that Liverpool has to offer. One being the Liverpool University, which is one of the most prestigious universities in the UK and renowned for its medical university in the world. You also have Liverpool Hope University and Liverpool John Moores University, again, all within walking distance of our development.
I would also like to add, David, if I may, that there is another student accommodation block less than 20 yards away from the site. So it's right in the catchment area for students.
Excellent. Okay, no, thanks for clarifying that. What are the returns like in Liverpool when compared to London? It's a bit of a long's a piece of string in some respects, but yeah,
I mean, returns in Liverpool are notoriously strong, you know, in comparison to London. I think ultimately the times have gone where you could buy a property in London and 3 years later make a 100% return. You know, we've seen that deteriorate quite drastically, especially over the 12 months and 18 months due to the current climate going on around the world, should we say. You know, London's always been a place that you buy for capital appreciation rather than returns. You know, you only have to look at the average price of a property in central London compared with your rental income, and you'd be lucky after your costs you're breaking 1 to 2%. Whereas in Liverpool, you'd be looking between 5 and 8% from a typical rental property.
Brilliant. Okay. What is the process for investing and exiting? So I'll start with that in terms of the process for investing. As we explained, Mitchell and the team also are very conscious of FCA regulations on financial promotions and collective investment schemes, the pooling of investment. So the investment is hosted on our platform. So an investor registers on our platform. They complete some KYC, some AML. They also must pass a short appropriateness test, just to confirm that they understand the nature of this type of equity investing. And then if they wish to invest, they would obviously invest on the project, select the amount they want to invest, the amount of shares they want to purchase. And then when the project reaches its minimum and then ultimately it's maximum. A shareholder agreement is then issued. It's the same one for everyone, and people have a chance to review that, and then when they're happy, they accept the shareholder agreement, transfer funds onto their platform wallet, and then once the funds are complete and the shareholder agreement's accepted, then only at that point are the funds drawn down and sent to the developer, and you, the investor, become a shareholder in that SPV. You're issued a share certificate. Normally, either the fact that the shares have been added, or sometimes even the names are added to Companies House. But you obviously are a legal shareholder then of the project. So hopefully that answers your question. And by way of exiting, Mitchell referred to that earlier. Again, if you want to repeat it just quickly, Mitchell, in terms of your planned exit.
Yeah, in relation to the exit, obviously we have taken the fractional sales route with over 90% of the development sold to date, with 90% of them exchanging contracts already. The exit is obviously upon completion of the development, where the investors will make their completed payments of 70%, which will then give the development a practical completion, and that will be your exit.
Brilliant. Okay. When will construction start on the site?
Construction started in June 2023. And Dave, can you just give a quick run through of the build program up to completion and sort of what we've done to date as part of that £2 million that we've already put into the build, please?
Yeah, no problem. Well, we've already commenced on site on Bastion Point, which is the first tower. We've completed the piling. The pile caps are now in place. The structural concrete columns are starting to come out of the ground. It's been slightly delayed, as Mitchell earlier said, because of the cold snap that we've just had. But all the starter bars are in place, so it is literally coming out of the ground. The drainage is in. All the work that's not seen is now in place, and we're starting to come out of the ground with the concrete frame. The actual build is concrete frame to a transfer slab level at first floor, and then it's lightweight steel frame, SFS frame, and it's all brickwork clad. There's no cladding panels on here for people to worry about. It's all face brickwork, so it's an excellent construction process.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. So that address should be now in the chat for everyone now. Thank you, Mitchell, for adding that in. Okay, last question then, we'll wrap up. I know Liverpool City Centre gets millions of visitors and is great for Airbnb. How close is this development to the city centre? It's a really good question. And are there other tourist draws in the area it's in?
Absolutely. So L3, where the development is very much the gateway to Liverpool city centre. You are within, I'd say, 2 to 5 minutes walking distance to Liverpool's business district in the city centre. Probably 5-minute walk to the Lava building, city centre train stations, etc. So it is very much a gateway development on the fringe of Liverpool city centre.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's very well answered. So that brings us to the end of the webinar today. If you do have any further questions, you can reach out to inquiries@elevate.co.uk. There is a phone number on the screen as well. So you can quickly do a screen grab on that, or take your mobile phone and quickly take an image. And you can reach out to the Elevate team. Again, any phone calls would be recorded for compliance purposes. And by all means, they'll be able to answer any questions that you have there. So just to finish off there, remind everyone, if you do feel this is an investment that you're interested in, then I encourage you to go on to the pitch pages. It'll be in the link will be in the email that you were sent promoting this webinar. Leave an email address, leave an amount you may be interested in investing if you do your due diligence or are happy, and then the team will obviously be in touch with you regarding the next steps. So with that, I'm happy to finish up. I'll let David and Mitchell have any last sort of one sentences to wrap up, and then we can finish.
No, that's it from me. I mean, I'd just like to say thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join and listen to us today. You know, INTERGITAS is something that I'm extremely proud of. It might seem cliche, but INTERGITAS is integrity in Latin. If you do a little bit of research into me and my background, you will understand why my company is named that. You know, I very much pride myself on protecting investors and giving back to the community. And that ultimately shows in the actions that I've taken as a developer.
Fantastic. Any comments, Dave, to finish off?
Just thank you very much for all attending, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Brilliant. Okay, listen, thanks everyone for coming. This is recorded and you will be sent a copy of the recording. And any questions, just get in touch. So thank you for your time. Wish everyone all the best. Good rest of the day.
Thanks, David. Bye now.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.